The Alamo is one of America's premier historical landmarks. Built by Franciscan monks in 1718, the monastery was converted into an altar of American democracy on March 6, 1836. When General Antonio Lopez de Santa Anna gave the order that sent 4,000 Mexican soldiers charging towards the nearly 200 Texan men garrisoned inside. Almost everyone knows the outcome of frantic hour-and-a-half battle, where all but a handful of Texans were killed in the most publicized last stand in military history. Since that dramatic battle of the Texas Revolution, "Remember the Alamo!" has become a rallying cry for beleaguered American troops wherever they might be, bolstering soldiers' courage in the heat of battle. And so the spirit of the Alamo continues to live on, occupying an important place in the mythos of the dauntless American democracy, resolved to remain vigilant in the face of an enemy before it. Yet as many San Antonio residents know, the spirit of the Alamo lives on in more ways than one. The fort is deemed one of the most haunted sites in the state of Texas. Perhaps it is the historical significance of the Texan sacrifice and the old Franciscan monastery. The men who fell in the fort, their deaths imbued with a timeless significance for the entire native nation, have taken on an aspect of timelessness themselves, continuing to haunt the hallowed ground where they gave their lives for an independent Texas. And an American ideal, or it may be the sheer horror of so many individuals' final moments, where the defenders saw imminent death arriving on dark wings by crashing cannon, whistling musket ball, and glinting bayonet. No quarter asked, none given. It could be that the merciless fighting that March 6th morning almost 200 years ago was so vicious that some of the combatants remained behind, unable to come to terms with the brutality of their final end. Either way, things have never been the same at the Alamo since 1836. Strange happenings began occurring there soon after the legendary battle. It was April 21st, 1836, when Santa Anna surrendered to the Texans after a decisive defeat at the Battle of San Jacinto. Before he submitted, Santa Anna gave the Mexican garrison in San Antonio orders to destroy the Alamo's chapel, a final strike against his Texas enemies, before he retreated south past the Rio Grande. But the soldiers sent out to destroy the occupied buildings were never able to carry out the command. According to legend, the contingent of Mexicans ordered to raze the Alamo were stopped at the entrance by a terrifying sight. 6 ghostly semi-transparent soldiers stood in a half circle before the chapel door, each holding a flaming saber aloft. It was evening, and a hot orange light from the phantoms' weapons flickered over the bizarre scene. The only way into the building for the Mexicans was through the 6 figures that were standing in their way, but not a man among them was able to take a single step towards the fort, so terrified were they of the defiant apparitions. There is no historical record of who these spirits were. It was too dark, and they were encased in too much shadow for anyone to make out any feature. The soldiers stood before the phantoms for a few minutes before the resolve of one of the Mexicans finally broke. Telling his shaking comrades they could fight Los Diablos if they wished, he turned his back to the Alamo and headed back to his barracks. The rest of the men weren't far behind him. This was only the first story to come out of the fort. Soon after, people started taking notice of a solitary figure that appeared atop the Alamo on some nights, moving from east to west on the south side of the roof. Some describe the figure as a lone sentry, deliberately making his rounds over an anachronistic post. Others swear that there is a desperate cadence in the figure's movements, as if it is frantically looking for some sort of escape. Whatever the case, those who have actually gone onto the roof to investigate have never gotten a chance to inquire what the mysterious individual might be up to, for no one has ever seen him face to face. San Antonio was using the Alamo as police headquarters through the 1890s, during which time countless officers held the footsteps, making their way across the roof of the building. Time and again, officers climbed up to see who was walking around on the roof, but there was never anyone there. After countless visitations by this mysterious rooftop interloper, policemen blamed it on the weather, explained the footsteps away by surmising that the sound could be caused by rain or falling objects blown in by the wind. While no one really believed these rationalizations, they helped a little bit in easing the officers' minds. The apparition of the solitary figure atop the Alamo continues to be spotted today by San Antonio tourists and residents alike, a lone man continuing his timeless walk across the roof, motivated by a force that may forever remain a mystery. The nocturnal figure isn't the only remnant of the 19th century that continues to haunt the Alamo. Another legend concerns a small fortune said to be buried in the wall in the southwest corner of the fort. According to this account, the Alamo's defenders placed all their personal treasures in one of the Alamo's bells just before the siege began and buried it under the fort. Many mediums who have claimed to communicate with the spirits of the dead Texans in the fort have confirmed this story, and according to some, it is no paltry treasure. One psychic has stated that over $540,000 in gold is hidden beneath the fort. Yet, unless the state of Texas is willing to take a wrecking ball to the historical site, the existence of this treasure must remain in question. A legend rather than a fact, along with all the other supernatural tales regarding the celebrated buildings. Visitors today continue to experience disturbing events at the Alamo. There are many accounts of sudden cold spots in the long barracks building, the reputed site of the fiercest fighting. Lone tourists have heard harsh whispers hissing at them from an empty space, and then there are those who have heard the brisk tramp of numerous marching feet, of painful moans carried on the ether coming from everywhere and nowhere. Such experiences and all stories associated with them are usually pigeonholed as folklore or supernatural phenomena, largely disassociated from the formal history of the fort. Nevertheless, they have proven the test of time, and over 150 years have the first supernatural experience was reported in the fort. Ghost stories still abound, making the historic Alamo one of the most haunting buildings in San Antonio, if not the entire state of Texas.